Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. As Italy host England in the second round of the 2022 Six Nations, both teams looking for their first victory of the tournament after England went down in dramatic fashion against Scotland last weekend. Whilst Italy, played, it was a bit of an Italy game, wasn't it? Where the first half they pitched up to a certain degree, and they made the French work quite hard for the victory. And then as the game went on, at the end of the day, Italy always struggled at this level. And there's been so many calls for them to be removed from the Six Nations because they haven't won a game in like 40 plus, matches and stuff like that. But the issue obviously always comes in is who do you replace them with? Because they do tend to then beat the next tier quite well. And I think that it's difficult to be patient with the side that you've been waiting to get better, but I do think we are starting to see a shift in Italy's future. If you're watching any of the Six Nations under 20s, they've got a very nice group of youngsters coming through, and the more that filter up to the top senior level, I think this Italian side can grow and can become a bit more competitive in the years to come. Before we look at the two teams, please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll start with the home side, which are the Italians. And they will be captained by Michel Lamaro, who's very much a heart-on-the-sleeve type player and really sort of trying to almost sort of literally drag his team through games and just try and get them to compete for the full 80 and try and find that elusive, first Six Nations in longer than most of us can remember. But in terms of the team that will be taking on a very rotated English side, this is how they will line up. In the front row, Gianmarco Lucchesi is inside of Danilo Facchetti and Pietro Casarelli. In the second row, they've got the support of Nicolo Canon and Federico Razza. And any big performance, any shock result, any upset starts with the tone being set for me in the front row, in the scrum, in the pack. Those tight five forwards have got to measure up. And I think that's always been a bit of an issue when it comes to sometimes smaller nations versus your bigger nations, is the ability to be able to front up with the pack and be able to compete up front and be able to allow their backline, which I think the Italian backline's got a lot of very talented players, but allow them, go forward ball, allow them not to be, let England be sort of running at them freely behind a very dominant pack. This tight five has to pitch up to provide any sort of platform for the Italians to try and sort of work with. The loose trio is Bram Steyn, the former Craddock, or the Craddock-born South African player, played at under 20s, now sitting at 29 years old. And then we've got Michel Lamaro, the captain, and Tua Halafihi. So a couple of imports in the loose trio, but they're imports across all the teams in Europe, really, so what can you really say too much about them? In the back line for Italy, obviously Stephen Varney and Paolo Garbisi continue their partnership. Those two will grow in leaps and bounds, and I have no doubt in 3 or 4 years' time, especially if this Italian group of youngsters, which are looking quite promising, comes through, I think they will be the heart of any sort of Italian rugby revolution, any sort of rise for Italian. If we ever see a golden generation of Italian rugby, which won't be winning a World Cup, but winning 2 or 3 Six Nations game, maybe getting to a World Cup quarter semi-final, I think those two will be very important for that. As well as the likes of Montana Ioni, who I think is also a tremendous player. The two centers are Marco Zanon and Gian Ignacio Briggs. Then you've got Federico Mori and Eduardo Padovani as the final two in the back three there. On the bench for the Italians, you've got Jaime Faiva, Chef Traore, and Tiziano Pasquale. Then you've got in this rest of the replacements on the forwards, you've got David Sisi and Sebastian Negri. Then Giovanni Pettinelli, Alessandro Fasco, and Leonardo Marin complete the bench for the Italians. Very much a project, aren't the Italians? They always just seem to be a project team. It's all about where can we grow, how can we improve, how can we eventually become competitive. And it's difficult because you don't want to just be the rollover team, but you do, to a certain degree, you need to draw a line in the sand and say, right, what is our plan here? Do we have a 5-year plan? Are we trying to be competitive every single match? Are we therefore picking players regardless of age and just try and put the best 15 players for damage control? Or do we then say, right, this is the generation, we're going to back them, and hopefully in 4 or 5 years' time they'll be good enough to start competing? I'll be very surprised they were to get a victory this weekend, but England have rotated their side quite a lot. So it'll still be captained by Tom Curry in the number 7 jersey there. But a very different looking side apart from that. So in the front row, Ennis Genge, vice-captain, is next to Jamie George and Will Stewart. Carl Sinclair and Luke Cowan-Dickey dropped to the bench. Luke Cowan-Dickey still on the side after his mishap last weekend actually did cost them the game. In the second row, it's a neutral combination in Charlie Ewells and Nick Isekwe. Maury Toji has shifted to the flank, which will excite some English fans, maybe might not excite all of them. But the loose trio will be Maury Toji, Tom Curry, and then Alex Dombrandt gets an opportunity to start off the terrific form he's shown in the Premiership. In the back line, Harry Randall gets an opportunity to start next to Marcus Smith, who is a very good player, and I like him a lot, and he's very fun to watch. But I think that there is a certain risk about the idea that he can't do anything wrong. And I think, we spent the entire week reading about how him being taken off was the difference last weekend. And I didn't think that Marcus Smith, I thought he was playing well last weekend, but I didn't think that he was, the pivotal only reason that England were in the game and leading the game. And I certainly don't think his substitution was the reason they lost. But that seems to be the rhetoric. So let's see what he can do this weekend. I think you just got to always be careful with players like this. Where sometimes what becomes a very stock standard performance gets blown out of proportion because of the way in which they do it in terms and who it is and sort of the hype around. So you always got to be a little bit careful about that to not get a little bit carried away. He is a tremendous talent. It could well be one of the most attacking and gifted fly halves England have ever produced. But we do need to be careful not to sort of fall into that trap of just thinking everything he does is absolute gold and nobody else can do anything and hold a candle near him. But the new wings, Jack Noel starts on the wing because Joe Marchant has actually stepped to outside centre, with Elliot Daly dropping down to the bench. Henry Slade continues at inside centre. Max Mullins and Freddie Stewart keep their jersey numbers from last weekend. Off the bench, Luke Cowan-Dickie, Joe Marler, Carl Sinclair. Tremendous talent and experience coming off the bench. They're two British and Irish Lions players. Joe Marler, World Cup finalist. So much experience between those three. Then you've got Ollie Chesham, Sam Simmons covering the rest of the scrum. Ben Young, George Ford, Elliot Daly. So there's a lot of experience, a lot of class coming off the bench. So if there were to be an upset on the cards or a bit of a heart attack or panic stations, to be able to bring on Ford, be able to bring on Youngs, Elliot Daly, Carl Sinclair, Joe Marler, a lot of leadership, a lot of experienced players who can come on and see a game out when they need it to be done. Do you think Italy have any hope? What are your score predictions? Let me know what you're looking out for in the game down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I'll chat to you soon.